Hi everybody, here's Shimrit Nativ, and in this video I want to share with you one of the key things that have shifted my relationship with my husband and really brought it to a new level. Um, those corners, those that tend to be more explosive in the communication you have with your life partner or with anybody for that matter, or even just with yourself. Those corners where there are layers of frustration or disappointment that are just waiting there, and then something happens and you hit that corner and then you just feel awful and all these emotions fill you up and you start reacting from that place of hurt or anger or fear, and this takes over. You know what I'm talking about? And wouldn't you wish in those moments that you could just stop, even just for one moment, to feel like that, and then maybe even choose a different reaction that serves better the situation? Well, you can. And I want to share with you 3 steps to shift that. So the first step is really just recognizing that this is happening. So I encourage you now to write a short list of 3 to 5 situations in which this pattern tends to show up in. Okay? So have that list and then start being ready, get ready to recognize this in real time, when this really happens, this really takes place. Just recognize it. Even if you cannot change it, even if you still feel awful and you still act in a way that you maybe you want to act differently or react differently, even if you can't change anything about it, just recognize that this is happening. And after a while, when you just recognize this, or maybe even in the first moment that you recognize it, you immediately or with time start to be able to take the next step, which is to differentiate yourself from that part of your experience. Yeah, because in any given moment, our experience includes many different things. The sounds we hear, other bodily sensations, the breath always flows through our body, our heart is always beating, and so in that moment when you recognize that this pattern is showing up, the next step would be to differentiate yourself from that specific component or layer of your experience by becoming aware, shifting your attention to other things that are happening. Even if you can just do it for a fraction of a moment, just, oh, I heard a bird, I heard the neighbors doing construction, as we can hear now, I'm breathing, whatever. And then maybe also start looking at this part of yourself, of your experience, of your being that is having these emotions and maybe even acting upon them, as if you're looking at a child. When a child is frustrated, right, he can get really dramatic, he can really feel awful, and he can cry and he can scream and he can lie on the floor and hit his fists in the floor. All sorts of very dramatic reactions that, the child at that moment really feels like that and acts like that. But us as an adult in those situations, we can contain that reaction of the child and see a bigger picture, right? And being able as an adult maybe to choose different choices than the child would take that serve him and the situation or her and the situation better, right? And then maybe usually we can also, it's easier for us to be compassionate about a child that is in that experience at the moment, and we can see the bigger picture and be compassionate, feel compassion towards the child. So when we start to differentiate ourselves and become an observer of our experience and see that part of ourselves which is feeling now pain or anger or whatever it is, we see it as that child feeling those emotions and containing that, and maybe then being able to choose a different reaction that serves better ourselves, that child, and our adult self and the other person and the whole situation. So the first step was to just recognize the pattern and hopefully in real time. And then the second step after you recognize it is to start differentiating yourself from that part of your experience by shifting your attention to other things that are happening around you or in you. And then also find maybe even compassion to yourself, to that part of yourself. And then the third step to this process is simply practice. Practice, you know, no pattern changes after one time. You know, patterns are created by repetition and they can be changed by repetition. And this takes patience, consistency, and trust. Trust yourself, trust the process. And I'm sure you will be able to recognize the shifts after a short while if you practice. So I hope you find this helpful, and please share with me in the comments how this is going for you. And if you would like to look deeper into those patterns that you would like to change and show up in your relationships better, improve them, bring more understanding and a better communication to your relationship and to your relationship with yourself, then please book a free breakthrough call with me, and we can together look into those patterns and think together of the best way for you to make those changes. Thank you for watching. See you next time.